Well, in case you've missed it, there's another big event this weekend aside from the Tory Leadership Convention. Today is opening day for Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg's prehistoric mega movie. 65 million years in the making, Jurassic Park will show you dinosaurs as you've never seen them before. But as Primetime's David Gilmore tells us, some children may not like what they see.
On June 11th, 1993, Jurassic Park was released to theaters. It is remembered for its story, its iconic characters, its practical effects, and its special effects, of which the latter was praised by both critics and audiences alike. Many are aware of the praise Jurassic Park received upon its release. However, the film received its fair share of criticism at the time, of which, as surprising as it sounds today, it got plenty of. And these critics didn't come from a random radio show in the 90s. In fact, the criticisms came from high places, like the New York Times and the Rodger and Ebert show, of which you'll see clips of throughout this video. So, without further ado, we'll be looking at what these critics had to say about Jurassic Park. In this video, we'll be covering 5 different reviews from 5 different critics, of which are the Rodger and Ebert Show, Variety, the New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, and the LA Times. I will not be breaking down all 5 reviews in full. I will only be covering the most important segments of each subsequent article. If you would like to read them for yourself, I've left the links to each one in the description below. And most importantly, these reviews are all from June 1993, so they are all relevant to Jurassic Park's release, and nothing is said in retrospect. Lastly, I'll not give my opinions until the very end of the video. And with that out of the way, let us begin.
They're back after millions of years. Dinosaurs, of course, in Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. And the bottom line is that his special effects dinosaurs are truly thrilling, but unfortunately his human characters are not. Sam Neill and Laura Dern play archaeologists lured to a billionaire Richard Attenborough's nature park where he has grown some very real dinosaurs. He's looking for the scientists' endorsement. They're looking at the dinosaurs, and so are we.
Number 1. Rodger and Ebert. When Steven Spielberg was first offered the screenplay for Jaws, he said he would direct the movie on one condition: that he didn't have to show the shark for the first hour. By slowly building the audience's apprehension, he felt the shark would be much more impressive when it finally arrived. He was right. I wish he had remembered that lesson when he was preparing Jurassic Park. The movie delivers all too well on its promise to show us dinosaurs. We see them early and often, and they are indeed a triumph of special effects artistry. But the movie is lacking other qualities that it needs even more, such as a sense of awe and wonderment and strong human values. It's clear seeing this long-awaited project that Spielberg devoted most of his effort to creating the dinosaurs. The human characters are a ragtag bunch of half-realized, sketched-in personalities who exist primarily to scream, utter dire warnings, and outwit the monsters. The plot to steal their embryos is handled like a TV sitcom. Dennis Nedry, an overwritten and overplayed blubbering fool, drives his jeep madly through the storm and thrashes about in the forest. If this subplot had been handled cleverly, with skill and subtlety, it might have added to the film's effect. Instead, it's as if one of the Three Stooges wandered into the story. The subsequent events, after the creatures get loose, follow an absolutely standard outline, similar in bits and pieces to all the earlier films in this genre, from The Lost World and King Kong, right up to the upcoming Carnosaur. True, because the director is Spielberg, there is a high technical level to the execution of the clichés. 2 set pieces are especially effective: a scene where a beast mauls a car with screaming kids inside, and another where the kids play hide and seek with two creatures in the kitchen. But consider what could have been. There was a scene very early in the film where Neil and Dern, who have studied dinosaurs all of their lives, see living ones for the first time. The creatures they see are tall, majestic leaf eaters, grazing placidly in the treetops. There's a sense of grandeur to them, and that is the sense lacking in the rest of the film, which quickly turns into a standard monster movie with screaming victims fleeing from roaring dinosaurs. Big-budget Hollywood seems to have lost its confidence that audiences can share big dreams. Jurassic Park throws a lot of dinosaurs at us, and because they look terrific, and indeed they do, we're supposed to be grateful. I have an uneasy feeling that if Spielberg had made Close Encounters today, we would have seen the aliens in the first 10 minutes, and by the halfway mark they'd be attacking Manhattan with the death rays. Because the movie delivers on the bottom line, I'm giving it 3 stars. You want great dinosaurs? You got great dinosaurs. Spielberg enlivens the action with lots of nice little touches. I especially like the sequence where a smaller creature leaps onto the larger one, and they battle to the death. On the monster movie level, the movie works, and it is entertaining. But with its monetary resources, it could have been so much more.
Jurassic Park has a number of peak thrills at the level of the attacks in Jaws, and it has moments of real wonder. But when the animals are off screen, the film really lags. That wasn't true if you think about it with Jaws, which had 3 marvelous characters hunting the shark. Jurassic Park only has Goldblum. The rest of the crew stands around and smiles or schemes. Still, thumbs up for me. The action scenes are really enjoyable.
Number 2. Variety. Jurassic Park will at least disabuse anyone of the idea that it would be fun to share the planet with dinosaurs. Steven Spielberg's scary and horrific thriller may be one-dimensional and even clunky in story and characterization, but it definitely delivers where it counts, in excitement, suspense, and the stupendous realization of giant prehistoric reptiles. Having finally found another set of Jaws worthy of the name, Spielberg and Universal have a monster hit on their hands. Early introductory scenes are surprisingly perfunctory and even sloppy. There are several bad cuts unworthy of a filmmaker of Spielberg's skill, and the script wouldn't pass muster in Screenwriting 101. Curiously, the suspenseful structuring of the novel's opening chapters, in which characters are mysteriously bitten, is abandoned here in favor of some foreshadowing and cross-cutting, a la The Exorcist. Equally surprising, Spielberg lets the cat out of the bag as far as the dinosaurs are concerned very early, showing some of them in full view after only 20 minutes, lessening the suspense that could have been cranked way up through the accumulation of sounds and partial sightings. It was unimaginable that Spielberg would proceed with Jurassic Park if he wasn't certain that the dinosaurs would be the best ever seen on screen, and the result shows that assumption to be true. The reptiles here are brilliantly convincing. In fact, the monsters are far more convincing than human characters. Just about everyone is defined by one trait only. Dr. Grant dislikes children. Ellie is good-natured. Ian is a skeptic. Dennis is a shretty traitor, and Samuel L. Jackson's computer technician always has a cigarette in his mouth. Saddled with skin-deep roles, the actors are not in much of a position to distinguish themselves. Neil's paleontologist comes off rather like a bland Indiana Jones, while Dern considerably overdoes the facial oohs and ahs. The kids are basically along for the ride, while Goldblum, attired in all black, hopefully fires off most of the wisecracks. While the gore of the novel has been toned down to unbloody levels, and the body count is notably lower, as if with the wave of a hand, the vast number of workers at the park are made to disappear when convenient. Technically, the film is sometimes more than it needs to be, as in some of Spielberg's previous works, Dean Cunding's lensing overdoes the back illumination and shafts of light at times, and John Williams' score gets unnecessarily bombastic. But the dinosaurs rule here, and Spielberg and his team of special effects artists have put something on screen that people have never seen before, which is the surest way to create a blockbuster.
I feel that really this movie, though, is a missed opportunity because what he doesn't have here, and what I really missed from a movie by Spielberg like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, is the sense of awe, the sense of majesty. These creatures are back, and it's amazing. And right away, after an opening shot that has a little of that,
it does.
The movie disintegrates basically into a monster picture.
Number 3. The New York Times. The savviest character in Mr. Crichton's book, a glamorous mathematician, named Ian Malcolm, is among several scientists taken to Jurassic Park to inspect the place before it opens. Confronted with the apparent glitch-free nature of this computerized Eden, Malcolm is skeptical. He frequently cites chaos theory as a way of suggesting that theoretically perfect models have a way of going haywire once they run up against reality. This idea has some bearing on the filmed version of Jurassic Park, too. On paper, this story is tailor-made for Mr. Spielberg's talents, combining the scares of Jaws with the high-tech, otherworldly romance of E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And of course, adding the challenge of creating the dinosaurs themselves. Yet, once it meets reality, Jurassic Park changes. It becomes less crisp on screen than it was on the page, with much of the enjoyable jargon either mumbled confusingly or otherwise thrown away. Sweetening the human characters, eradicating most of their evil motives, and dispensing with a dinosaur bombing ending, so the material is now sequel-friendly, Mr. Spielberg has taken the bite out of this story. Luckily, this film's most interesting characters have teeth to spare. Sometimes matching the scare value of Jaws, though they also occasionally suggest an educational trip to the World's Fair, this film's dinosaurs trample its humans both literally and figuratively. They appear only for brief interludes, but the dinosaurs dominate Jurassic Park in every way. Amazingly graceful and convincing, they have set a sky-high new standard for computer-generated special effects. But thoughts about how those effects were achieved aren't likely to surface while the film is underway. The most important thing about the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park is that they create a triumph illusion. You will believe you have spent time in a dino-filled world.
There's not really any opportunity to really give these creatures their due. It's almost like the movie doesn't have any respect for the intelligence of the audience, that they might really be interested in dinosaurs instead of just in the action scenes.
We could have used more scenes, you're right, of awe. And that's, well, I think you're just right.
Number 4. Entertainment Weekly. In Jurassic Park, the dinosaurs tap into the giddiest science class daydreams you had as a kid. Created through a blend of computer-generated animation and electronically controlled models, they are so marvelous, and Spielberg choreographs their scenes with such wit, tension, and verve that it's easy to overlook the film's obvious weakness. A plot that's at once busy and thin, characters you like without caring about, and a coy layer of blockbuster self-consciousness. As a flight of fantasy, Jurassic Park lacks the emotional unity of Spielberg's classics, such as Jaws and E.T., yet it has enough of his innocent, playful verticity to send you out of the theatre grinning with delight. The best thing about Crichton's plot is that, to your average scientific know-nothing, the dinosaur cloning business sounds just plausible enough to tickle your sense of fantasy. The worst thing about it is that the very idea of Jurassic Park seems an obvious yet pointless metaphor for the commercialization of Steven Spielberg's empire. Since Hammond's toys and gizmos feature the same logo that's being used to sell the movie, and its many tie-in products, there's no way to separate Spielberg's satire of marketing from the marketing itself. I wish he'd just dropped the whole Jurassic Park as a capitalist dream business and added more dinosaurs. Spielberg's trend gift has always been for making the fantastic seem real, and the real fantastic. Recently, though, in movies like the gauchely mediocre Hook, he seems to have lost his center, tossing whiz-bang moments around like so much confetti. Jurassic Park has some of that scattershot and personal approach. Alan Grant sports an Indiana Jones hat, but he barely registers as a hero. Yet the film is held together by the authentic wonder we feel in the presence of the splendorous creatures, in their ruthlessness and monstrous grandeur. The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are viewed as our symbolic ancestors, pure embodiments of the primal life force. They're of this earth, but out of this world.
Also on the island, a skeptical mathematician played by Jeff Goldblum, the best human character in this movie. He has some of the same adult edge as Spielberg's adult characters in Jaws. As you might expect in the movies, when man plays God, he loses, and the dinosaurs are soon running free. There are children under attack, too, in the park, the grandchildren of the park's owner, Richard Attenborough. Despite their presence, however, in my opinion, Jurassic Park is too intense for children under the age of, say, 10.
Number 5. The LA Times. Do the dinosaurs work? Indeed they do. Does anything else? Not really. The greatly anticipated Jurassic Park, it turns out, is the poor little rich kid of this summer's movies. Everything that money can buy has been bought, and what an estimated 60 million can purchase is awfully impressive. But even in Hollywood, there are things a blank check can't guarantee, and the lack of those keeps this film from being more than one hell of an effective parlor trick. Ranging from the kindly Brachiosaurus to the difficult Tyrannosaurus Rex and the downright nasty Velociraptor, some 6 kinds of dinosaurs come to life with a verisimilitude that is humbling and that also blends seamlessly with the film's considerably blander and less interesting human characters. All of the imagination and effort that went into making the dinosaurs state-of-the-art and exciting apparently left no time to make the people similarly believable or involving. Not that anyone was expecting Jurassic Park to be the dinosaur version of Howard's End. In fact, it was Spielberg himself who created the model for this kind of picture 18 summers ago when he directed the enormously popular Jaws, a film in which strong acting and concern for characters added considerably to its creature-on-the-loose suspense. One looks in vain, however, for performances as good as those of Robert Shaw or Richard Dreyfuss, or patches of writing as memorable as Shaw's monologue about a World War II shark attack. With the exception of Richard Attenborough, Jurassic Park's acting is unengaging and simplistic. Combined with Spielberg's unexpectedly flat directing style, the result is a standard-issue Jeopardy picture with very realistic dinosaurs plugged into all the gaps appropriate. Written by novelist Michael Crichton and co-screenwriter David Cope, Jurassic Park actually starts out with some of the peep and vigor of an old-fashioned B-movie, moving quickly between different locations as if it can't wait to set up its story. But as if possessed by a mysterious tropical lethargy, Jurassic Park slows to a crawl once their island is reached. Aside from the ingenious explanation of where the dinosaurs come from, the film spends almost all its time on the false alarms and cute moments emphasizing how much Dr. Grant can't stand to be around kids. Though thrilling in the abstract, the battles in Jurassic Park suffer as the rest of the film does, because they're not connected to anything that isn't the emotional equivalent of baby food. For Spielberg, the director who brought it all together in Jaws, E.T., and Sugarland Express, seems like an out-of-control toy to be spinning off in a pair of different but equally unfortunate directions. On the one hand, Spielberg's acceptance of an indifferent level of performance from his actors indicates an increasingly mechanical, uninvolved approach to the non-effects parts of filmmaking, making Jurassic Park play like it was directed by one of those special effects computers it makes such prominent use of. And whatever emotion does find its way into this film reeks of suitable for children sentimentality, which is paradoxical given how unsuitable for children all the action is. It's tempting to call Jurassic Park Father Knows Best, the early years, because the sole point of all the carnage appears to be to increase Dr. Grant's appreciation for young people, turning him from a gruff curmudgeon into someone who has the making of a considerate parent. Finally, though, the problem with Jurassic Park is that Spielberg has chosen to make an amusement park instead of a motion picture, so much so that it is difficult to separate what the script says about the park, we're going to make a fortune with this place, from what the filmmakers must have thought about the project. Jurassic Park will doubtlessly make that fortune and solidify Spielberg's position as the Pied Piper of popular entertainment. But those who remember when the director didn't sacrifice everything to childish sentiments and special effects will view it as a further step along the familiar road of a talented individual unnerved by success.
And I think you're right about whether or not it's too intense for kids. Now, I've talked to some parents who have really prepped their children. They've said, look, the kids in the movie don't get hurt, and the dinosaurs are just special effects, or their animation, or their models.
Never gonna get.
And to a degree, I think you can prepare children for a movie like this, but at the same time, I think there are scenes in this movie that are very intense. Now, it's being aimed at kids. I mean, it's being promoted through dino meals at McDonald's, and a lot of kids are going to want to see this movie, and I think for the little ones, it's going to be too strong.
I've heard of parents taking their kids out of the theaters over this opening week, little tiny kids under the age of 10.
With Jurassic Park's 30th anniversary on the horizon, it's interesting to look back and read what these critics had to say, and whether or not you agree with them is up to you. I, however, think it's interesting to hear what they had to say. I might disagree with the points they made, especially about the characters, but it's still fascinating to look back at their words in retrospect. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. This is the Dinosaur Man, and I thank you for joining me on this adventure, 65 million years in the making, and I hope to see you again soon.